Hi everyone, and welcome to Inderes Defense Day. In this video, we'll be going through Kitron as Kitron's equity story and Kitron's focus on the defense sector with Hans-Petter Thomassen, who's the VP of Nordics and North America at Kitron. Welcome, Hans-Petter.
Thank you.
Let's start with a very simple question. Many viewers surely know Kitron, but what is Kitron all about, and what is your link to defense industry?
Well, Kitron is a contract manufacturer in the electronics domain, and we serve a number of sectors. We've been around for more than 60 years. That's a pretty long history coming in electronics. So the current setup in Kitron is a group of 10 factories in 3 regions around the world. And I head up the Nordics and North America, where we have the lion's share of the defense business.
How does the defense business tie into the rest of your business? It is not a majority of your business, I guess around 15% is the revenue contribution, but why is it a part of Kitron?
Well, Kitron, first of all, the Nordic countries have a strong industrial base in the defense area. So Kitron has focused on serving those customers. And that's part of the history of Kitron, is that we have followed our customers out into the world where they need our services. So defense has always been one of the true pillars of the business segments, and we are very much focused on keeping distribution of revenue among different sectors in all the factories we have, because they have very, very different business cycles.
Right. And is there any similarity in the defense customers compared to your other customers in other industries?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything in defense is ruggedized electronics. It's living in very, very harsh environments, and there are very complex requirements related to the assembly of the product, the manufacturing of the product, and also surrounding requirements that are related to fulfilling the full contract. So the key word here is really high complexity more than anything. It doesn't really matter whether it goes into a medical device or whether it goes to a fighter jet per se.
Right, so it fits right in to your portfolio.
Yeah.
So if we think of the market drivers specifically for the defense sector, obviously we know there's good trends overall in the defense sector for countries to invest. But for you and Kitron specifically, you're a partner to the defense industry companies manufacturing for them. How do you see the market drivers? What is helping you grow your revenue in this segment? What might be slowing you down?
Well, right now we have basically, historically, we have 2 vectors here. We have European or Nordic OEMs venturing into the world, typically going to the US. That's where we go to set up shop where they need us. And then you have the other ones. I mean, most Nordic countries, they import at least 80% of the hardware they need for the defense sector. And there are still several countries in Europe who operate with requirements of industrial cooperation. And then Kitron can be a very important player to support the foreign OEMs coming into the Nordics to be able to meet the contractual requirements that there is for local content.
Right. Is there any other angle towards why companies pick Kitron, or they have a contract manufacturer for their products in the defense industry?
Well, obviously the long-standing reputation in the market is obviously one of them, and being that we are very much qualified. When it comes to defense, you have the product, its complexity. Typically, the complexity of the manufacturing require us to have a reasonable retention of labor over time, and we're fortunate enough to be able to have that. So we've built a very, very strong competence base among our employees, which is something that is truly valued for these types of applications. Secondly, it's about the surrounding requirements for you have to be able to fulfill security requirements, trade compliance requirements. There are public acquisition regulation requirements, which are they're real, and you may not like them, but you have to be able to support them.
Yeah, yeah. And if we look at the market growth against this backdrop, how do you see your demand for your defense industry services developing in the next 5 years? Do you see that the overall defense sector tailwind is supporting you as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole growth scenario for the defense industry started prior to the tragic Ukraine war. There has been a strong drive to increase defense spend in general, coming out of the deep peace era into something. Then obviously with the Ukraine invasion happening, then this all took on an entirely different proportion. So what we're seeing now short term is a very, very high drive to be able to donate and support the Ukraine in the defense sector. And then after there comes the long-term picture where basically all the European NATO countries are aiming to significantly build their capacities again. So in total here, we're not looking at a spike that's going to last a year or two. We're looking, in my opinion, we're looking at more of a long-term tsunami. So
far outlook is good.
So far outlook is good.
Yeah. If we think of Kitron's individual competitive advantages in sort of getting this demand to your business, what do you think are the strengths you have as a company? And then are there areas where you have disadvantages, especially in the defense industry?
Well, first of all, there are certain application areas where we have strong knowledge. We have been strong on communication gear, on radar applications. So there are certain application areas where we have a deeper knowledge than other areas. So that's certainly an aspect. And also we have been fortunate enough to have an engineering team that is not only focusing on the product itself, but we have a very strong team that can support the customer in the early industrialization phases. Typically, it's in two areas. Is the customer focus on developing an application. We support in getting it manufacturable at a reasonable cost. And we also have a very strong engineering base for developing systems to test the functionality of the units we are manufacturing. So that's certainly. And then on the other, we do support the entire value chain and the entire product life cycle, which is extremely important in the defense market. Most of these assets are going to be out there. They're going to be deployed for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So repair and overhaul and being able to support that entire life cycle is certainly a strength that we have.
Are there any disadvantages you have competitively or areas that you are not putting as much focus on or are?
Well, obviously, the key word from my side has been complexity and low and medium volumes there. And on the other end of that scale, we don't focus as much on low complexity products and certainly not in the defense domain. And then there is the geographic footprint. Our origin is Nordic and following customers and supporting OEMs coming into the Nordics. Given that we don't really have a strong presence, let's say in the UK or in France for that matter. So there are geographic areas where we don't have a strong presence at this point.
Right. And it's also a nice segue to your strategy overall. So I guess you have made certain choices where you don't want to go and where you put your focus. So could you crystallize what is your strategy? What are you putting focus on?
Well, right now we've been steady on the strategy for quite a few years, and we don't expect to have any major strategic shifts. The geography we're in is where we're going to be. Would possibly be interesting to strengthen the footprint somewhat on the other side of the Atlantic in the US. That can be an opportunity, although nothing has been decided, but it's stuff that we are looking into. But we're going to stick to the strategy we've been holding on to for quite some time, supporting the European OEMs and the OEMs coming into Europe. Then in terms of new geographies, there is an emerging stronger cooperation between Nordics and Germany in particular. So that's an area of interest where we are are seeking to capitalize on that cooperation.
Right. And I guess what that leaves out is a very quick and aggressive geographical expansion, and you also leave out, you said you focus on these complex products, so you also leave out the kind of bulkier, high volume products, or that's kind of, would that be a fair assessment of your strategy?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment. We do have a very decent footprint in Central Europe to support localized production in many NATO countries already. So although they're not doing defense work today, we're certainly, we bring that to the table in every discussion we have with the OEMs. If you need a defense setup in Czech or in Poland or in Lithuania, we're there. We can transfer that competence from those sites who have that competence. So that's a strength that we have in this marketplace.
If we sum it all up and think about Kitron from an investment point of view and the value creation point of view, so when you allocate capital and you execute your strategy, is Kitron a sort of profitable growth company doing steady capital allocation with the current path, organic and maybe M&A as well? Or are there any bigger investments in sight that might do something to the profitability?
Now, referring back to our Capital Markets Day in December, everything with us is about profitable growth and capital efficiency. We don't engage in business where we don't see that we can achieve our profitability goals or have a reasonable capital efficiency. So, and M&A is something we explore just about every day. I mean, there are always opportunities out there, but as you probably well know, you have to sift through many of them before you find the right one.
Right. So profitable growth has been the path before, and it's going to be the path going forward as well.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Hans-Petter, for these comments.
Thank you.